Here are 3 ways that I stay looped in as an investor. When you're an investor, there's not really one single source of information. If you're trying to become a better investor or maybe have a little bit more information or even just context for your investments, it's always a good idea to look at multiple sources of information and find confluences. Confluences are basically a way for you to identify information that might not be totally related, but it points in the same direction. So maybe there are 2 or 3 or 4, 6, however many sources you have that point in the market in a certain direction. Those sources could then become your confluences. And now you have maybe 3 or 4 factors that are affecting your decision to go long on the market instead of trying to short the market. The first one that I look to for information is just books. Now I know a lot of you guys probably don't like reading. And the truth is most people do not enjoy reading. So a great solution to that is audiobooks. And the reason that I think books are so important is because people have spent time and money researching and then developing these books in order to provide some sort of value. Now, they're not all valuable, don't get me wrong. The truth is that there's probably about 10 to 20 books that I think everybody should read. And then after that, it's up to your own discretion if you want to keep reading and keep adding to that knowledge base. Me personally, I love to read, and so I try to add as many books as I can to that list just to expand my book of knowledge and on the things that I know about investing, about finance. I love consuming new information because that gives me new ideas. It allows me to think differently. And a lot of these books, guys, these books were written long ago, but they still stand true to this day. So if you can get your hands on some books about finance, about investing, about how to break out of the 9-to-5, how to become a passive income expert, you can start learning some of these strategies and these tools that have worked for decades. And yes, they might have changed just a little bit, but the truth is that these books, they have the information that you need to get a base knowledge of investing, of finance, of the financial markets. You should know how different emotions affect the market. What does fear do to the market? What does greed do to the market? Why are those probably the most prominent emotions in the market? If we know that the market isn't actually the market, it's just fear and greed, that makes us think differently about the market. And it's the same when it comes to other investments as well. There are fundamental truths that you need to know, and a lot of times you can only find those in books or very, very reputable sources. I love reading dissertations and research that other people have done in this sphere. It allows me to understand the different ideologies that exist, especially cited from different sources. So if I know that a certain idea was presented in this year, I can go back and I can research that source and understand why they came to that conclusion, why this research was done, why it was useful back then, and then I can decide if it's useful today. Now, the second source of information that I use is the financial market. The financial market has way more information than you might expect. It's not just charts, it's not just candles. All of that paints a picture. And if you look at the overall financial markets, look at economies of different countries, okay? So what are the economies of European countries doing? What's the economy of the US doing? What about Canada? What about Mexico? What about countries in South America, right? We have to look at, on a global scale, what's happening in the economic market. And if we can find out what's happening in the macro market, we can then scale down to some sort of micro market and understand what's going on economically there. What are people doing with their money? Are they spending more money? Are they spending less money? What are they spending money on? Is it discretionary spending or non-discretionary spending? Are they buying a lot of luxury items? What about exotic cars? Are sales of exotic cars up or down? What about private jets? Are people using private jets more? Are people using private jets less? These are all important factors that we need to understand about the economy because those paint a pretty clear picture. Now, they might not paint the full picture of the economy, but they can definitely point us in the right direction. If we see that, hey, people are starting to buy a lot of exotic cars. Okay, well, that's usually a luxury item. And yes, I know in my program, we treat it as an investment, and that's a very unique scenario. But most people, they're buying exotic cars when it's a luxury. They don't really need an exotic car, but they're buying it because they have the money to spend. So how much money do the people have? What about jobs reports? How many jobs are in the market? Are they increasing or decreasing? What's happening to the job market? What economic outlook do we have? And so if we can research those things and understand why and how they work, that's going to give us a much clearer picture when we go into our investments. Because if we think that people are getting more jobs and they're making more money, we can start using that information to inform our investment decisions. So we can start investing into things that are going to appeal more to the luxury side. We know people are going to have money, so they're going to want to spend it somewhere. So what if we positioned ourselves into investments that are more optional? Maybe they're more profitable then. A lot of times I find that these investments that aren't really necessary, but they're kind of like a luxury, they're way more profitable. The margins are bigger, and that's because they're an investment that people don't really need, but when they're willing to spend money on it, they don't really care about the actual cost of that item. They just want that item. Now, whether it's a brand or whatever it might be, they want that specific item and they're ready to spend money on it. So that's the second place that I look for information. Now, the third place that I look for information is social media. And guys, this is a really big one, so take it with a grain of salt. But social media, it's not always accurate. There's a lot of information on social media that's just not true, okay? So you have to know how to filter through that information in order to get to the accurate information. Now, if you're following reputable sources, maybe like Forbes or maybe reputable news sources, that's probably pretty accurate information. And so a lot of times people are turning to social media in order to get a brief overview of what's happening. So instead of me going to, let's say, Bloomberg and reading everything on their website, I could just go to social media and find out what the Bloomberg Instagram page is posting. And it's interesting that everybody's kind of turning in that direction, where all these big companies, these outlets, they're beginning to post the hottest stories on social media. And it's not just that. I don't use it as necessarily an indicator for my investments. I use it as a way to understand what people are talking about. If something becomes popular on social media, it's gonna have hype around it, right? Let's say we go back a few years to when fidget spinners were around. Everybody started buying these fidget spinners and there's a lot of hype around them. So if you were one of the investors that got in early because you saw that hype building up, all of a sudden you made a lot of money because you got into that market early. Now, there are actually softwares out there that will go to social media, it'll go to Twitter, to Instagram, and it will start scraping data on things that are extremely popular or trending. So if you can go to social media and collect information and see what topics are trending, what companies are trending, what industries are trending, what technologies are trending, that might be a possible confluence for your investment strategy. So let's say we see that drones are the top trending topic for weeks and weeks and weeks. Well, if you look at the market, you might even see that companies who manufacture drones, the value of the company is going up. And why is that? Well, it's because it's trending. And so there are literally algorithms out there that will go out and seek out this information and will actually place trades based on that information. So people are using these tools. I think you guys should be using these tools as well. It's a great way to get a general knowledge of the market from books, right? We know our fundamentals. Then we start looking to financial markets, different news outlets. They're going to be posting information that's relevant and could help us become better investors. And then finally, use social media definitely with a grain of salt, but look at what's trending. If you can find out what's trending on social media, you might be on the right path to a good investment. So guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.